Welcome, everyone, to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today. We are going to tackle something that seems simple but is actually kind of tricky: buying a genuinely healthy goldfish. Whether you're setting up your very first tank or, you're a seasoned hobbyist just looking to add a new finned buddy to the mix, starting with a healthy fish is literally the foundation of everything. It's make or break. Okay, let's dive into this buyer's journey together. We're going to look at the reality of chain stores, run through some crucial pre-purchase prep, learn exactly how to spot a healthy fish, cover some massive red flags you need to avoid, and wrap up with getting them home safely. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the chain store reality. So most folks buy their very first fish from a big retail chain. I mean, it makes sense, right? It's cheap, it's totally accessible. But before we even step foot in that aisle, we need a bit of a reality check. There's this quote from the Furry Critter Network that just hits the nail on the head. Fish are products. As long as they don't die before you leave the store, they're doing their job. Man, that's tough to hear, isn't it? But it's the truth. These fish get handled roughly, they're shipped in bags with thousands of others, and tossed into crowded retail systems. The whole setup is built for high turnover, not long-term health. Because they arrive so stressed and compromised, your careful selection is absolutely critical. And that brings us right to this massive moral dilemma that almost every beginner faces. You're standing there, right? Looking at this poor, struggling fish in a tiny, overcrowded tank. You feel awful for it. You just want to scoop him up and give him a better life. So, should you rescue a sick fish? The answer is a hard, definitive no. I know, it sounds super harsh. But buying that sick fish out of pity doesn't fix the broken retail system. Actually, all it does is seriously endanger your healthy tank at home. You're practically guaranteeing that highly contagious diseases or parasites are coming home with you. And let's be real, a severely sick retail fish is probably going to pass away anyway, despite your absolute best efforts. You got to protect your home tank first. Moving right along to Section 2, pre-purchase preparation. 10 to 15 years. Let that sink in for a second. That is the actual true potential lifespan of medium-sized fish like goldfish. There's this wild myth that they're just these short-lived impulse buys you toss in a bowl for a couple of months. Complete nonsense. That's just the result of poor care. When you pick out a goldfish, you're making a decade-plus commitment to a living animal. You definitely need to plan your tank size and your whole setup around that kind of timeline. And part of that prep work is understanding compatibility. Because, hey, all goldfish are not created equal. You should really never mix fast, streamlined, single-tail goldfish, like comets, with these slower, bulkier twin tails like moors or fantails. See, those twin tails are slow, and honestly, they usually have pretty terrible eyesight. If you throw them in the same tank, the fast single tails are going to zip around and gobble up literally all the food. Your beautiful twin tails, they'll just slowly starve. Keep like with like. Okay, here's a fancy biological term you need to know: poikilothermic. It basically just means goldfish are cold-blooded. Their internal body temperature is entirely dictated by the water around them. Any sudden, drastic shifts in that water temperature, that causes massive, sometimes fatal stress for them. You really got to keep this in the back of your mind for that eventual car ride home from the store. All right, Section 3, spotting a healthy goldfish. So we're finally in the store aisles. But before you even look at a single fish, I want you to remember the number 2. The aquarium community has this thing called the 2 dead fish rule. Basically, if you're walking down the aisle and you spot more than 2 dead fish floating in the store's tanks, turn around, walk right out the door. Seriously, retail tanks almost always share the exact same water filtration system. If disease is actively taking out multiple fish in that setup, pretty much every other fish in that water has been exposed. Now, if the store actually passes that test, we can start looking at the fish. And this brilliantly illustrates the difference we're looking for. A healthy fish is zipping around. Its fins are fully erect and away from its body, and its scales look smooth and vibrant. Contrast that right against a sick fish. It's going to be sluggish, maybe just hovering near the surface or parked on the bottom, with its fins clamped super tight against its sides. So here is your mental checklist for good health. You absolutely want to see those erect fins. You want to see the fish actively digging around and foraging for food, right? Not just ignoring the world around them. Check how they're breathing. It should look steady, not frantic or gasping. Look at the body shape. It should be nice and full, totally rounded out, definitely not looking hollow or wasted away. And they're swimming? It should look completely effortless. If it looks like they're fighting just to stay upright or balanced, walk away. Which brings us to Section 4, red flags to avoid. It's honestly incredible how obvious some of these visual symptoms are once you know what to look for. If you see these weird, fluffy, white, cotton wool-looking tufts on a fish's mouth or body, that's calamari, or a really nasty fungal infection. If the fish looks like someone basically sprinkled salt all over it, just tiny white pinhead spots, that's itch, and it spreads like wildfire. And if the scales are sticking out, making the fish look exactly like a pine cone, that's a symptom of dropsy, which is incredibly tough to treat. Avoid fish showing any of these signs like the plague. But hey, sometimes the fish looks totally fine on the outside. No spots, no sores. That is exactly when you have to watch what they're doing. Behavioral red flags are huge warning signs. Clamped fins, like we mentioned, are the universal sign of a stressed out or sick fish. If you see them twitching or violently scratching themselves against the gravel, hobbyists call that flashing, it almost always means they've got external parasites. Gasping at the water surface, that's a cry for oxygen or gill damage. And just sitting listlessly on the bottom, they're totally out of energy to fight off whatever's attacking their immune system. All right, Section 5, Safe Journey and Acclimation. Okay, so you found it. The perfect healthy goldfish. You bought it. Now, how do we get it into your tank without causing a fatal shock? Here's the exact playbook. First, float the sealed bag in your tank for about 15 to 25 minutes. Remember that cold-blooded thing? This lets the temperature slowly equalize. Second step, open the bag and over the course of about 30 minutes, gradually scoop little bits of your tank water into it. This eases the fish into your specific water chemistry and pH. And finally, step 3, gently net the fish and release it into your tank. But listen to me on this one, throw that bag water away entirely. Do not pour that nasty pet store soup into your pristine home aquarium. But wait, plot twist. You're actually not putting them in your main display tank yet. Nope, the journey doesn't end there. You have got to quarantine any new arrivals for at least 2 to 4 weeks, every single time. Like we talked about, chain store fish have been through the ringer, they are compromised, and sometimes it takes a couple of weeks for those diseases to finally show up. So the crucial point here is setting up a proper quarantine toolkit. Nothing crazy, just a separate 10 to 20 gallon tank. Keep the lights dim. A nice dark environment does wonders for bringing their stress levels down. Here's a pro tip. Do not feed them for the first 48 hours. I know it's tempting, but they're way too stressed to digest food properly right now, and uneaten food will just wreck your water quality. Finally, you can toss in a tiny bit of aquarium salt, about a 0.3% concentration. It's an optional, gentle tonic that helps their slime coat heal up and fights off minor bugs. Just give them some peace and quiet to decompress. And that brings us to the end of our explainer. But before we go, I really want to leave you with this to chew on. You've done all the hard work. You've perfectly selected the healthiest, most vibrant fish in the store. But is your water actually ready for them? Because here's the absolute truth. The healthiest fish in the entire world still needs a tank with absolutely zero ammonia and zero nitrates to survive. So if you don't know what the nitrogen cycle is, well, consider that your very next homework assignment. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and happy fish keeping.